So we shall continue. So what we've been looking at are the different sources of recruitment, or the different ways that we can recruit. So let's just flash back a little bit. We looked at vacancy ads, which of course can happen in a number of places, including professional journals. We looked at the fact that people could apply for jobs themselves even though there is no ad, and this could be very valuable to organizations because they ain't spend no money on recruitment, because I'm sure you all know ads are not cheap. Okay, so we looked at the fact that websites and internet is obviously a big place to recruit, and we'll talk about that a little later on. The fact that employees can give referrals to people that they would like to work. Now, this is an interesting one. I should actually say this. So, for example, if your least performing employee says, I have a friend who looking for work, that might be a bit judgmental, but you may not want to go there. You may be happy accepting referrals from people who you actually think are, good performers. Okay, and as I said, there's this interesting idea about nepotism here. I don't think there's any issue sharing vacancy information, because remember, the point of recruitment is to get as many qualified potential applicants applying. This is not about selection yet. Right, so there are executive search firms. These are two that operate in Trinidad. And what these tend to do is they're very, very careful with doing background checks and really analyzing the candidates. So they would have a database of employees, and you as an employer would go to them and say, I'm looking for an HR manager. This is what I want to pay. This is what I'm looking for. And they will go through their database, or even put an ad out themselves for the client, who would be you. And when the people start to apply, or whatever's on their database, they will conduct a first interview. They will do background checks as per your request, police checks, qualification verifications. This has changed in terms of how much they charge. They actually charge more like 2 to 3 months salary. So if you're looking for a manager who getting 30,000 a month, they could charge you 90,000 for actually finding you a list of 10 candidates or so. But then of course they've done all the work. And sometimes when we want to really appear very transparent and independent and doing it the best way, then why not use some of these executive search firms? Educational institutions, don't we have career fairs and career guidance? And often you find employers coming to educational institutions, especially career fairs, to do just what we're doing now, recruit potential employees. Same thing for professional associations. They often are good sources of recruitment. They help place their members, so they're very happy to work with employers. Then we also have public employment agencies, like, I'm not sure if they're still doing this, but at one point you could actually let the ministry, you could send your CV to the Ministry of Labor, small and micro enterprise, and they may be able to help. We also have a different type of employment agency, Regency Eve Anderson. Now sometimes they deal with senior level positions, but not always. And sometimes they actually deal with temporary positions. So maybe someone's going on maternity leave, or somebody's going on an extended vacation. They are happy to provide people who would only work for that period of time. So again, there are possible places for potential employees. So a little bit about employee referrals. That line, which I know you probably can't see, actually says increasing the effectiveness of employee referrals. But here's what we just need to know. Be very clear as to who is doing the referring. Make the visibility very clear. So when there's a vacant position, remember your goal for recruitment is to get as many qualified potential applicants so that you have a bigger pool to choose from, so you could get the best. So vacancy ads can't be hidden. If there's a job required, if there's a job, let your employees know there's a vacant job. So increase the visibility, or increase the information so that people know there's a job, so they can get people to be interested and then refer them. Keep the data, of course, so that you can know which employee may refer good people compared to not, and then measure the results. Is this person who came in actually good? Okay, so what else can we do to improve our chances of locating promising talent? Well, there are 3 things we can do. Yield ratios, we could look at who's actually doing the recruitment themselves, and then something called a realistic job preview. So those are the 3 things here. Let's take you through all. So a yield ratio is simply the percentage of applicants from the recruitment source that make it to the next stage. So let's say I've advertised for an accounting assistant position in The Guardian and 50 people apply. Out of those 50, 30 are potential to be let's say 30. 30 have the potential to be interviewed. Then that ratio is going to be 30 out of 50, which is 60%, which is a pretty decent yield ratio. Sometimes you could put an ad out and get 100 applications and only 5 people have the qualifications you need. So in that case, the ratio would have been 5 out of 100. Was that 20? Oh, hell, 5%, duh. Okay, so higher ratios indicate better recruiting sources. So simple one here, if I received 100 resumes, I found 50 to be acceptable and my yield would be 50%. And again, the clearer our ad is, the more attractive our ad is, the more likely people are to apply. Yeah? Okay. This is just a very, I'm certainly don't expect you all to learn this, but this is how chronic we can be about understanding how much it could cost to hire an employee. And we should know that. We shouldn't just really be like, oh, we spent $50,000 on recruitment. We should be able to work that out according to the number of hires. So this is just when we tally up all kind of things, the advertising costs, the agency fees, if there was a referral bonus, blah, blah, blah. Add up all that it costs, divide by the total number of people hired, and we can work out what our average cost of recruiting an employee is. Good things to look at, because obviously you don't want to be spending $800 one year and $1,500 the next. Okay, who we actually have doing our recruitment is important. So certainly HR should be trained in this area. There should definitely be a professional in their attitude, but they may be only involved in recruitment. So in very large organizations, you may have officers who are only dealing with recruitment. They don't do any other HR function. Or you may have HR generalists, people who do all functions of HR, including recruitment. And then really importantly, which we'll get into much more with selection, is you want to involve managers and supervisors in your recruitment. So first of all, what do these recruiters need to have? Well, they need to have a knowledge of the job, obviously, and the organization. They should be a pretty good interviewer. And then, of course, you want them to be personable, enthusiastic, and be proud that these people are representing your organization. So you certainly wouldn't take your grumpiest hater of an employee or your sourest supervisor and say, I want you to do our recruitment, because that person is going to put off potential applicants. Okay? Realistic job previews often is done. I've seen it done actually in Prestige Holdings in Trinidad. I don't know if they still do it. Letting potential applicants really get a realistic feel of what the job is, or a preview of the job, including both the desirable and undesirable aspects of the job. So, for example, at KFC at one point, if you were interested in working there, they would let you see what the job was, make you come in on a busy Friday night or Friday lunchtime and really get a feel of what the job is, rather than you just come in on a quiet Monday and everything looks very peaceful. Oh, I can do this. And then when the pressure of a busy, hungry Trinidadian Friday night hit you, you realize, oh, maybe not. So the idea is to be very realistic about the job, so that if somebody doesn't think they can do it, well, best you find out in this stage here when you haven't even started to interview people. So some of the benefits of this are that employees find that they are more satisfied. I'm sure you can see that there's less turnover because people realize that they see what the job is and they're still cool with working there, rather than not knowing and then leaving. People definitely feel communication has been more enhanced because we're being a bit more honest and open about what people need to do, and then they're much clearer as to what the expectations of the job are. Okay, so let's look at this now. This is a big one. Newspaper vacancy ads. We know that a lot of companies in Trinidad still use vacancy ads. One of the main reasons is actually we still have so many laws on the books that say that the ad must be gazetted. It must be put in the papers. But really, do we still read papers? Do people, how many of you all read a paper today? I mean, yeah, you might go online, but which is probably why we're seeing less and less ads in the paper, but we certainly have supplements weekly where organizations do put their ads in. So it's still viable by all means. It's not cheap. but it is a very easy way of being transparent about your ad, that you did advertise for the position, and letting quite a large cross-section of the community and the society see it. Okay. So what actually makes a vacancy ad effective? We'll talk about that. Now, there's a definite thrust towards using the internet for recruitment. So this can happen in a number of ways, and you probably still need a vacancy ad on these sites. So the company itself might put an ad out on their website. You might actually have websites for recruitment companies. Then we have, CaribbeanJobs.com, TriniJobs.com. Even LinkedIn has become a really successful, powerful tool for recruitment, where we can put jobs on LinkedIn. Monster is a big international one, but we can also use social media and Instagram and Twitter. I mean, how many of us have gotten a little notice of jobs being advertised through WhatsApp? So there's no doubt we can be using all sources of recruitment. So let's talk a little bit, of course, now about vacancy ads, because this is what your project is all about. So what makes them effective? Right, so what really does make an ad effective? Well, let's look at a few. So if you saw this ad, what would you think? Surgeon wanted for a new health clinic operating in the area. No experience needed and must have own tools. That's a little disturbing, wouldn't you say? So this is obviously not what I mean when we term in terms of vacancy ads. No experience needed for a surgeon is very, very worrying. Okay, so I know you may not be able to see all the words here, but let's look at this one. Come join our growing team. There's a really nice statement rather than saying vacancy or help wanted, because that sounds a little bit more desperate. They clearly have the job title, field technician. They actually have a little summary. Green Dot is currently looking blah, blah, blah to carry out that. Then they have very clearly the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you need to have. And interestingly, they have said the ability to work 5 days per week. They want you to have your own vehicle, etc. And then they have what is required of the application process. Okay. Now, there are a few things missing here. So as you can see, as I said, there's a great heading here that'll grab your attention. Nice color will also grab your attention. The job title would, obviously, if you are in this area, this is something you'd look for. Green Dot, their logo is there, so that's great because people recognize logos. It's a reputable company. They also have the contact details via some kind of email address. But I'm not seeing a deadline date anywhere, so that's a little disturbing. If I didn't know anything about Green Dot, I'd have to go and do some research, but at least it's clear that who it is, so I can do that research. I don't actually know what the job entails. So it's a very brief summary, but I don't have any details of the job, so that's not too good. So here's another one. This says careers at, I guess MI is what it is. So again, at least we have clearly their logo. This word vacancy to me don't look that good. I think we could be a little bit more professional here, but they do say we're looking for blah, 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 blah. The position title is clear, marketing and communications assistant. Again, they've gone into the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, abilities, and not really said anything about the job. So that's a very broad title. So I don't know what that is. So it would have been good to see a little bit about the job in terms of a job summary and some of the TDRs, the tasks, duties, and responsibilities. They have clearly identified the application process to send in your application. They've given an address. They've given an email. And again, their company logo is very clear, even their little logo behind here. So again, if they haven't said anything about the company, but you can easily go and research who they are. Then we have this one again. I know you can't necessarily see all the words, but that's okay. Now we can see in actually all of these that they're pretty clearly laid out. You know, sometimes we see a million ads or so much information. The font is so small you can't even read anything. So here's one again that has the company logo. This paragraph here actually is a summary of the company. Then the job title is very clear. This is a summary of the job title, and it also includes who the person reports to. So they report to the manager of media and communications. This is actually the responsibilities of the job, the requirements and qualifications, other skills needed. They've explained the recruitment process, and then they put their contact details. So this is a quite nicely laid out ad here. It has a lot of the good details we're looking for. And what we're going to do now is actually get into some of these details.